13th meeting of the Board of Southwest Tech, and ask if there are any public comments. Seeing none, then I will, Michael asked that we move his superintendent's report up on the agenda. He has another appointment. So go ahead, Mike.
Good morning, everybody. And thanks for coming to this morning's meeting. I'd like to say to the public who's watching, happy holidays to everybody. I hope everyone has a safe and happy holiday season. And so I just want to start by saying thank you for moving the agenda item up for me for the superintendent's report. I do have another commitment I have to leave by 10:44. I do apologize for that. It was a last minute change in my schedule. I wanted to start by talking to you about the flood that we had at school, and just talk to you a little bit about what happened, where we're at with that, and what the plan forward is. So, I'm sure you saw in the paper, and I know I communicated with the board a couple of different times regarding a water event that we had at school. There were actually two separate events that occurred. One which occurred the previous Sunday, a heating pipe in the office area allegedly had broke. I was called to the school in the early afternoon on that Sunday, and there was quite extensive damage to the office area, including the campus store and the store classroom, which was next to it. There was enough water for that first leak that it was literally raining down inside from the ceiling inside of the accounting classroom, which is off the campus store. That's how much water there was. It had poured out into the atrium and ran all the way across the floorway for that very first leak. So ServPro was called, the water was turned off, and remediation efforts started immediately within just a few hours. To my dismay, the next morning, as I was getting ready for work early, around 6:30 in the morning, I received a couple of phone calls to let me know that there was another pipe that had appeared to broke on the third floor this time of the school, and that water had made its way through all three floors of the school. As you can imagine, not anything I wanted to hear at 6:30 in the morning. So we did go to school, and sure enough, a pipe on the third floor in a classroom had broke. I can't tell you the reason why at this point. I know it's being looked into, whether it was a freeze or a water ham or whatever it may be. But it caused significant damage through all three floors of the school. In my email, as I share with you, about 14 spaces were disrupted. All of the offices, the main office suite, with the exception of the very front area where Sandy and Tiffany are, as well as my office and Rob's. The rest were completely underwater. And the campus store is off limits. Of course, the campus store classroom also has to be redone. From the second leak, you can imagine a third floor leak causes more damage than a second floor leak. So that also destroyed two classrooms on the third floor, which were full of water. The assembly room, which you all are very familiar with, down below it, it also rained very hard in there. Based on everything in there is ruined, as well as the small rooms next to it. And below that, right below there is the video production suite, which is a series of 3 different classrooms. That room and those series of rooms took the brunt of the damage. That room is completely destroyed in all of its contents, all 3 rooms, which will have to be completely reconstructed from top to bottom. The positive part about all this, as I said in my email, I want to say thank you to the staff and the community who pulled together and got us back together very quickly. The good news is that only a couple classrooms were actually displaced, and for those teachers, that's a big displace. Moving someone's classroom is very hard. We have made space for folks, for those that are impacted. You'll notice Becky's not in her office. She's actually in mine right now because the business office is now moved downstairs to the basement to a storage room, essentially. We are hopeful that the offices will be back up and running in the next 10 days to 2 to 3 weeks. That's what we're told. It all depends on the final assessment and walkthrough of what needs to be replaced and what doesn't need to be replaced. And from there, The classrooms will be repaired in order. You know, definitely the video productions classroom, like I said, will be the longest repair, and everything before that will just take a little bit less longer, hopefully. It's all materials and waiting for stuff to come in. As I indicated to you, you know, the facility damages will be covered by insurance, and the contents which were damaged will be covered by our insurance, Southwest Tex Insurance, which covers the contents. Basically, renter's insurance, as you all are aware, we do lease the building from Mount Anthony. That's the way it works. So it's, you know, it doesn't look all that bad necessarily if you walked into school right now and saw it. For those who saw it originally, it was very bad and really disturbing to see. As I share with you, I do have photos that I will put into a gallery for you. I just haven't had a chance to do that yet, and I apologize. We've been focusing on getting kids back in the building, getting classrooms moved and staff put in places where they can work as effectively as possible until this is resolved. So, you know, as I said to the staff, Southwest Tech strong, like we always are. You know, this is one more thing on top of COVID, on top of everything else that we've been dealing with. We'll get through it just like we have everything else. And you know, I just wanted to give you the full update on what it was. It was quite a mess. And once you see the pictures, I think you'll see that a lot of things were just affected. And we're very lucky it wasn't 14 classrooms that were destroyed, and it was 14 spaces. And again, for the teachers who were displaced and the staff who were displaced, it's hard. It definitely is. But everyone's pulled together and making the best of it. And they know that we're going to get through this. And hopefully after the holiday break, some things will be more accessible. And after that, even more. So I'm happy to answer questions for you regarding that if I can. I try to spare you all the details for time purposes, but I'll open the floor up for questions.
Mike, what's our deductible on that as far as insurance?
That's Becky can answer that for you.
Okay.
We talked about it last week, and I can't remember which. There's two different deductibles, so I want to tell you the right one.
Normally, it's usually 1,000 or 5,000, but I don't know. I'm just asking. I'm just curious.
Yep.
It's actually less than that, and I'm trying to find it right now.
Wow.
I think I even sent it in an email. I'll get that answer to you before the end of the meeting.
Okay, no, that's fine.
Thanks, Becky. Sorry to put you on the spot.
Yeah. I'm not in my office, so all of my notes aren't in front of me, so I apologize.
Yes, I do realize it's not as much as we thought, though, which was nice. So
perfect. That's good.
It looks like Asher has his hand up. Go ahead, Asher.
What can we do to help?
Just stay supportive like you always are as a board. You know, everything's being handled by the professional contractors and folks inside the campus. And, you know, if we certainly need anything, we're going to reach out to the board and ask you for that. But right now we've got things under control as much as they can be. But thank you for asking.
So this is Leon, just to Mike.
Yep.
In the process of having all of this happen, will there be recommendations for changes once we get to the end as to what may need to happen, different improvements in the building or something along that line so that we can better prepare? I know always behind something like this, there will be some recommendations for changes.
Yeah, Leon, that's a great question, and I think the board will certainly see. Well, I know for a fact that they're going to see a report of what was done, what was found, and what was repaired, et cetera. And as part of this process, of course, all the ceilings need to come down, and walls are being opened up and whatnot. So, you know, we're going to find a lot, I'm sure, or recommendations of things that can be improved upon or modified as time goes on. Leon. So, you know, I don't know if it'll be an official report like that, but a summary of what was found and how to correct, you know, situations for the future. So hopefully correct situations for the future.
Mike, I think Tony D'Onofrio, the maintenance guy.
Yes.
I think he's doing a study on the whole building anyway, because we've asked for that at MAU and stuff. So I'm sure that's going to include the tech center.
Yes, I was actually just going to thank you, Fran. I was going to mention that there was an engineering study being commissioned. I do know that, and it also does involve our building, so there'll be a full report for that as well.
Yeah, perfect.
I see Becky had her hand up as well.
I did find it's less than the 5,000. It's 2,500 is our deductible. And they're treating, because the timing of the two incidents are so close together, they are actually treating it as one particular claim. So we only have to pay the deductible once. So
excellent.
Good news.
Yeah.
Leon, does that answer your question? I want to make sure.
Yeah, you did.
Okay. Anybody else? Questions on the flood portion? Okay. Thank you. My next piece I want to talk about is our testing. I know that I talked to you last month about our testing that we're doing, statewide testing. That is all completed with our students, and that went very well. We still are tallying the results, and we will have that next month for you. As a summary, that's testing we have to do. As a reminder, that's called work keys testing. It's basically essential math, reading, writing, workplace skills, and that is being done piloted statewide this year. And so we had to participate in that, and so we did, and it was a good process. Dave Dutcher, Meg, and Lisa spent a lot of time making sure that those tests could be administered to our students. There was a lot of effort, so thank you for that. Also, our Perkins Plan, which we talked about last month as well, that is also approved now. The AOE has given final sign off on that, and so that is really good news to have. That's about $170,000. Some of that covers positions. Some of it is CTSOs, school improvement, math initiatives. There are a bunch of things in there that I know we've talked about before. And that's what I have for my superintendent's report this month. That has been definitely wrapped up primarily by water and unfortunately, and dealing with COVID, but that's just part of our new routine. So Jackie?
Yes. Do you want to also include in your report the emergency nomination form on Timothy Mullen?
That's up to the board chair if you'd like me to do that now or not.
John?
Okay.
As long as you're here, Michael, it makes sense. Sure.
Yeah, I'm here for a little while longer, but if I never know what happens with time. So if you want, that's the end of my report. But we can go to action items, the one for emergency nomination for manufacturing. And there is a nomination form in your Dropbox and on the website for Tim Mullen. Tim is currently a paraprofessional. He has been in manufacturing for a couple of years, more than 2 years actually, helping out. And as you know, we've been trying to find an instructor for that. Tim has graciously stepped up to teach the rest of the year in there because we just can't find anybody. And in order for that to happen, I had to apply for an emergency license for Tim with the Agency of Education, which has been granted for him. That will expire at the end of the school year. So as a formality only, really, we're bringing him to the board for nomination. Even though it is only a temporary position, we thought it would be appropriate to bring it to the board to officiate that. So that's what it's for.
Thank you.
Somebody want to move this? Do we need to approve that that nomination?
Yes, then, I would as
yeah. Okay. So if we could have a motion to accept this nomination.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do we, okay. John, do we want to also ask Michael to talk about the bus at this time as well?
Well, I didn't know if he was going to do that or Rebecca was going to do that, because it's probably most of it's about the money aspect of it, isn't it?
Okay, we can wait then.
All right, so let's get back to the agenda as written then. Can we have a motion to accept the minutes of the full board meeting for Monday, November 8th?
I move to accept the minutes.
Are there any questions or comments regarding them? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, and can we also, we have a motion for the Joint Education and Facilities and the Finance Committee, October 28th meeting, the minutes of that meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Are there any questions or comments regarding those minutes? And all those in favor of accepting those minutes,
Aye.
Or say aye.
Aye.
And the minutes from the Finance Committee meeting on Monday, November 8th. Also need approval.
I'll move them.
Second it.
Are there any questions or comments on those minutes? And all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the payroll warrants. 1018 and 1019.
I'll move them.
Second.
All those in favor of accepting those two warrants?
Aye.
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 And vendor warrants, 1017 and 1020.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments regarding the vendor warrants?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Go ahead, Leon.
And this I wanted just to get an understanding. This is in 1020. I'm trying to find what I did with it. This has to do with a school payment of $6,000 and something.
750.
It's 6,750.
Page 11.
Yeah, I wrote it down and then I got all my papers all mixed up. So I wanted to understand what that was from Rebecca. You don't mind it. See there? Oh, yeah, this is $6,751.12. It's PO number 22339. And what caught my eye to that particular was the North Country Union High School check. And I'm saying, well, help me understand the CTE custodian for that.
So Leon, that's the agreement that all the teachers have under Perkins, and they are the school that's collecting the funds, and that's the consortium to help with training new teachers and the CTE itself. And it's a payment we do every single year. And it's part of the Perkins funding that we do. And Mike, I don't know if you have more details, but that's what it's in regards to.
Sure. Basically, the state makes an assessment to each tech center each year to participate in the teacher prep program for our new teachers. I can't tell you the exact formula that's used, but we are given the number that we are to plug into our Perkins plan. And then some tech center has to agree to take those funds and process them. It's usually different each year. This year it's North Country Tech Center. Sometimes it's been Springfield, other times it's been River Valley. This year happens to be them. So that's what it is. It's a yearly fee. It changes each year and it's paid for out of our Perkins money.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question. We're spending a lot of money on the school store, is that just to replace all the stuff that was damaged?
Anything that you see on the school store that we're spending is actually the funding for it comes out of the school store as well. So, but because we do the checks to pay the vendors, it shows up on our vendor report, but then the money for that, or the revenue the store collects, covers that spending. But we do report it, so it's, you know, there's no question where our checks are going, but the revenue from the store actually covers those checks in the end.
Okay.
And you haven't seen a lot of that the last 2 years because of COVID. The store hadn't been open in like a year and a half. So all of a sudden you're seeing a lot more vendor checks regarding the campus store because they have to restock because they're back open. Well, they have been back open until the flood anyway. So.
But we hope to open back up again soon. We're working on it.
Are there any other questions? Yeah, Dane.
Thanks. For anything billed for uniforms like auto tech or culinary arts, is that for cleaning the uniforms or for new uniforms?
A couple of different things. You're going to see cleaning of uniforms for auto. So auto, their uniforms get so dirty from everything that they're doing that we do send some of the uniforms out for cleaning. For culinary, it was new uniforms because we've changed our school name and everything we had was still Career Development Center. But just to know that any uniforms that are purchased with school funding stays within the school year after year. So they buy a variety of sizes and they currently do the laundering here at the school. And then those same uniforms are used again next year and the following year. And some of them need to be replaced after that because of wear and tear or you know, just completely, you can't clean it anymore. But so depending on which department you're talking about, culinary, there was a new purchase of uniforms. Again, because of this branding, it was necessary. But there's also cleaning in some instances.
And just to follow up on that also is like Becky said, for uniforms that are in auto, for example, they're full of grease and dirt. They've got to be cleaned professionally with a company that comes and does it. But we have tried to cut costs in-house over the last several years by doing some of our own laundering inside, like cosmetology has a washer and dryer set they use, you know, LNA and our medical professions has a set that they use, and culinary, we're in the process of that. So, you know, there'll be less and less of that, but some places we just have to have done out elsewhere. So.
Thank you. I just noticed that it was 2 months in a row and I didn't know if like they were going missing and we were buying new ones every month but it sounds like it's just for cleaning and one-time replacements.
Cleaning and wear and tear, yeah.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? We have then, I guess we've had a movement in a second. Can we have a vote then? All those in favor of accepting the vendor warrants as presented?
Aye.
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 Okay. Can we have the cash flow and revenue and expenses report, the treasurer's report? Are there any questions or comments about that? Can we then have a motion to accept?
I'll move it.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the superintendent's evaluation. The executive committee spent some time looking at the superintendent's performance over the last year. We used some forms that originally came from Vermont Agency of Education's Education Quality Division with regard to superintendents and so forth. And we also asked Michael to write a self-evaluation. We found that basically the goals that we had assigned for last year had been effort made in all of them to accomplish them, but with COVID and some of the other issues that came up, not all of them were fully accomplished. So they will continue to be goals for this coming year. I'll just read those to you so that you have an idea. Implementing a graduate follow-up program on a consistent basis and sharing the data with staff to assist in program development. Continued work on a standard one from the NEAS core values. And that's been worked on as well. Continue to pursue, 3 is continue to pursue additional dual enrollment and expanded work-based learning components, and that has been accomplished. And some of the things so far, opportunities from this past year include pre-law, CCD expansion to CCD credit as well. Medical professions expansion to CCD and the credit in AP Bio as well. And in the automotive, Subaru of North America, Toyota and GM, General Motors service technician certifications. So those are some of the areas in which we've expanded the recognition and the components to so that the recognition of the students' accomplishment in those areas. In addition, there have been a couple of, we've added the center continues to pursue agreements with others that to have added value or enhanced abilities and advanced opportunities within the state priorities, and those are being worked on. A couple of things were the traditional work-based learning opportunities were suspended because of COVID, but the school then made an effort to do video walkthroughs and virtual job shadow, those kinds of things, so that the students still had an opportunity to see what was possible, even though they couldn't go directly into the facility.
John,
and also the
John,
yeah.
It's Leon. I wanted to just say, at this point in time in the superintendent's evaluation is supposed to be the general summation, because we have in our minutes for our meeting to reflect all the things that you're talking about. Just basically here, according to our policy 2600 and the school's superintendent's evaluation, we didn't find anything dissatisfactory for the superintendent, and so therefore we're continuing on with certain goals and things that we have, and we'll allow him to move on. And that's what the public needed to know, that the board has did its job reviewing what the superintendent is supposed to be doing in accordance with our policies and state regulations and so forth. And we want to move on with that.
All right. And there was one additional goal added, which I guess we don't mention at this point. So the executive committee felt at this time that just to commend Michael on a great job in a very difficult year, both personally and as far as the center goes. COVID certainly had a huge effect, but Michael had his staff prepared and willing to work together to make the school year happen, and I think in a very successful way. I personally feel, and I think the executive committee feels the same with that. So with that in mind, as Leon said, there were no only commendations essentially for the work that was done in the last year for Michael. There were no deficiencies noted. Is there anything else, Leon or Jackie, that you want to comment on?
I think that's all we wanted to do is just report out to the board, and that's it. And you did that summation, so thanks.
I'd only like to add that this is year 2 of a 3-year contract.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
All right. So anyway, nice job, Mike. And I don't know if the board needs to do anything except hear the information. I don't think they need to vote on it or anything, do they?
You just well, that's gonna be sent to his. I mean, it goes to his files for his record.
Right. Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So we can approve the summation so that it'll be from a full board if you wanted to have, and I'll move that.
All right.
Second.
All those in favor then?
Aye.
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 Okay. Thank you. Action items. So we took care of the. Becky, did you want to talk a little bit about the awarding of the bus bid? Michael, yes. Either one. I don't know who wants to do that.
I'll let Becky do that.
Okay. I'll talk about that. We have brought to the board before, both to the finance committee and to the full board, the need for replacing some transportation. As you know, we do provide some transportation for our sending school students to attend Southwest Tech. And we also bring a number of our programs, they go out into the field, basically, it's different places. So it's important for us to have transportation that's dependable. And as you know, a lot of our transportation has been aging. There's a need at this point. There's a bus that we had asked to replace. We brought this to the finance committee and to the full board to prepare it. We put it out to bid. And we did send the bid out to 7 businesses that we felt, could possibly provide what we were looking for. And we received only 2 bids in from the 7 businesses, reflecting partly in the fact that there's difficulty in both new and used pre-owned equipment. We went back after receiving the initial quotes. We went back to find out about possibly looking at a used bus. And there aren't many out there. And that was one of the problems we ran into. There aren't many that are out there that have low enough mileage for us to invest the time to be able to have that bus as part of our fleet. The other problem is the type of bus that we need for our CDL licensing of our bus drivers. So we have to be careful with the weight and the number of passengers for the bus. So we had specifics, and we were looking for a type A bus, which is what this bid reflects. Looking at the packet, the quote analysis that was in the Dropbox, we received a bid from Anderson Bluebird Sales of New England and a bid from DATCO Sales and Service. And the DATCO bid came in lower for the actual bus itself. And then there were some add-ons that we wanted them to break out separately so that we could see the pricing. We find that it's very essential to do the undercoating due to the weather here in New England, that it's important for the protection for the bus. And you can see the undercoating price was included in the Anderson, but it was an additional $600 for DATCO. We want to look at, we have surveillance systems in our buses, and they are the gatekeeper surveillance system, and to find out what it would cost for them to install the cameras, again, that system in the bus. And you can see the difference. Anderson is $17.95, DATCO is $28.10. And part of it has to do with the cameras and the wiring. We couldn't see a big difference between the two, so it was a little bit difficult to find why that pricing was different. But I think it had to do with, I think one had one more camera in there. It had a 4-camera versus a 3-camera is what I'm thinking, what we saw. And then it's important for the heated exterior mirrors, because we'd hate for $180 not to have that as a feature when it comes to safety. We'd hate to have something happen because they can't see in their rear views, and it's because we saved $180. And we also felt it was important for the seat belts. And Anderson, it would be an additional cost to add seat belts. They were not included in the specs where DATCO included the seat belts. Overall, DATCO still comes in cheaper even with the add-ons than Anderson. And it also has the body of the DATCO is a Collins body, which is similar to a number of bodies that we have for buses. And it seems to be the preferable style compared to the Bluebird body. It's just something with the design. It seems to be a better, and this is not from me. This is, we consulted Tom, who is our auto technology instructor, because I don't know all of this stuff. So we asked for his help, and the Collins body seemed to be a better body to go with. So our recommendation is to use the funding from the Reserve Equipment Fund. And our recommendation is to purchase the bus from DATCO with all of the additional add-ons. So it would be a total cost when we include those add-ons of $66,375. And that's what I'm asking the board. I'll open it up to questions, but I'm asking for a motion and to approve the purchase of the bus from DATCO for that.
I'll make the motion.
Amount.
I'll second it.
Are there any questions or any other comments for Becky before
I have a couple of questions, John, or to Rebecca. On the undercoating, anytime a new vehicle is built, whether it be a truck or car, bus, doesn't make any difference. They have a factory undercoating already in there, but it's really nothing. They undercoat the seams. They put a little bit of, I'll call it, let's say glue for the seams. It's almost like a foam that they put in there. Now the undercoating that they're going to put in for an additional $600, I'd love to know what it is, because I'll tell you, if it's anything like Rusty Jones and that crap used to be, it was garbage. So I just really like to know, or if we could ask them, what undercoating are they going to put in there? Because like I say, that even if it's a Collins body, it's still going to come with some undercoating from the factory. So some of that I'd like to know. And let's see, I guess that's it for now. I had another question, but it's gone, so I'll think of it again.
Yeah, I have a question. We have this coming from the reserve fund. So how much is left in the reserve funds?
And Jackie, while Becky's looking that up, Fran, also, we are at your recommendation, I believe a couple of years ago, all the vehicles are being also under oiled, if you will. And undercoat's the wrong word. Right. With a product that's replaced every year or two. So hopefully that's helping it. It will help as well. Hopefully. Yeah,
because we'll get twice of the length of time out of that bus if we oil everything up. Because that's the best undercoating you can get.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Ashley has a question.
Well, Becky's looking up the answer. Becky, but just a round figure,
Yeah, I'm just looking. Again, I apologize, but because I'm not in my office, not everything is right at my fingertips. So I'm just
Understood.
Mhm.
When you have that answer, I'll ask my question.
There's no pressure on Becky. We're all just watching her.
Well, I'd like to hear what Asher's question is while she's waiting.
Yeah, if you all would like to hear it, just to ponder it. I'm curious as to how the search for low emission buses went. I don't know that either of those two buses mentioned are low emission. I don't know if there were any even on the market. I'm just curious as to how that search went, and also if there was any word on getting grants from the state, perhaps to take some of the burden off of us having to take money out of our reserve in order to pay for the buses.
I can answer both those questions for Asher if you'd like. The first one, actually Dane and had also sent along information on electric vehicles and you know, we are going to need to replace another bus in another year. I mean, quite frankly, and the time frame in order to get this bus even delivered, we needed to go with this one now. So not a lot of research went into electric vehicles and grants and emissions and things like that for this round. It certainly will the next time we have more time. I will let you know that this is not a diesel bus; it is gas, and that's what our Tom prefers, which does have better emissions on it. It doesn't have the what's that fluid, the DEF fluid that we have to use on the diesel stuff and all that stuff. So hopefully it has lower emissions than the diesel. But we certainly we're going to look into it, Asher and Dane and everyone else next time when we have a little bit more time. We're not going to see this bus probably until at least a year from now is what we're being told. So it's going to be a while.
That's my other question.
Yeah, it's going to be a while. So
okay.
That's fair. I just wanted to know. Yeah, and as for the bus we're getting sooner, that's fine. You know, I don't want us to be, you know, down a bus or using one that needs to be replaced. I was just wondering, but yeah, for the next bus, if we could maybe be just a little, you know, ready to go for that low emission and, you know, get with the times, that would be awesome.
I would say we'd be very happy to do that, and so would our maintenance, so would Tom. So
excellent.
Dane, did you have a question or?
Yeah, I have
I was just gonna.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Anthony.
I was just more kind of on the bus side of things. I was kind of doing some research, and I was trying to think about what's the best way to kind of reach our rural districts and that come to, you know, Southwest Tech. And in doing that, they have in Michigan, they developed a tech satellite bus. So they had a full-size bus that blew out the inside and made a teaching center. And they were able to travel around the state and teach their classes to these remote locations while having everybody come to the tech center itself. And so I know we were talking about Manchester and the cost of renting space and all that. And I think this would kind of solve or just kind of take the place of that. And so you want to have that annual cost of rent if you have like a satellite bus. And they got grants, like $100,000 grant from Google and so forth. And it was pretty cool. I was going to bring it up in the education committee for more research, but I just want to throw it out there and just get a feel of what people thought about that.
I think ideas like that are great, you know, and any ideas that you guys can bring forward to us, so certainly look into. I mean, you know, we've talked about, you know, doing a food truck, for example, you know, for culinary, a portable restaurant, if you will. So it's not out of the question. And I think ideas like that, TJ, are really important, that we explore all sorts of ideas that maybe I haven't thought about, our team hasn't thought about. So thank you for that. I think that's an interesting idea.
And I would second the motion for that type of thinking, because when and if we ever get an electric bus or a second phase electric bus, we could run it without emissions. So because here you know, you'd have to run it all the time in order to heat it. You couldn't have a classroom, you know, say up in Arlington outside with the bus, because you'd have to run it all the time in the winter. But if it was electric, then we could run it.
Better worry about what your charging station's going to be. You better get that in now. It'll probably take 2 years to get that. You might get a grant from the state for that.
Right. It'd be more of a hybrid thing. So you'd have like an electric and the gas. I mean, so, you know, when you need the electric for the heating and whatnot, you have that. When you need the gas to travel, you'll have that as well. So usually you're going to have a hybrid before you have full electric. I don't see a hybrid bus coming for decade, but a hybrid, I mean, it's a full electric, I mean, but a hybrid will come in sooner than that. But I'll just leave it at that. I'm not trying to take up any more time than we have to. Just want to throw it out there, and we'll do some research and come back to that.
Anthony, it's a good idea, but I'll tell you, with the administration you got now, he doesn't want any gas or fuel, so we're going to be poor before we know it.
So I do have a couple of answers.
Good.
So Jackie, we currently have in the equipment reserve 66,003. I'm sorry, we're taking that away. $132,404.23. At the end of this fiscal year, we would be adding the 20,000 the voters approved, but I don't add that in until the end of the year. So that would bring us up to
About 100.
152. But we take that away, we're at 66. It'll bring us up to about 86,000 after we purchase the bus. That's where we would be at the end of this year, taking away the funds for the bus, but adding back the 20,000 that the voters had already approved for this year. As far as the undercoating, I need to get more details, Fran. I know that Tom spoke with both representatives from both companies that submitted bids. What's on the bid itself says undercoat body components except within 12 inches of the exhaust system, heat shields, or drive shaft. So I can find out more. I know Tom spoke with them in depth because, again, he's the one that knows all the ins and outs,
right?
But I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah. Well, we used to, Tom and I, I worked with Tom years ago at the dealerships. And I used to fix all the buses when they wreck them, and we used to put side panels on them and stuff. But a lot of some of the times when some companies undercoat, I'll use Rusty Jones as an example because that was the worst one that was on the market. It's a hard undercoating. What it does after time, it peels off. It just falls off in sheets. So, I mean, it's really not a good example, but, you know, for undercoating. But anyway, that's all I got.
So your recommendation would be looking for what, if we're asking that question before we move forward with the undercoating costs, we want to make sure it's in oil? Is that?
Well, as I've talked with Mike on this before too, usually the best undercoating you can get is oil. You have it sprayed with oil underneath. And I get that with the shields and the exhaust and all that stuff. And that's normal that they do that. But there was an undercoating out there. It's kind of like a, kind of like a sticky grease that they would do. And I forget the name of the company that do it. That's far better than 3 or 4 of the other undercoatings on there. And if I can find some of my old paperwork, I'll look that up later today and get back to you on it. But yeah, oil's the best because it gets in all the seams. I mean, you can I've taken cars when we cut them apart or something, and I never forget it. We took apart a 66 Mercury Colony Park wagon years ago, and it had been oiled. It was from California. It had been oiled, and you took the parts of the cut a quarter off or something. It was like brand new underneath. The metal was shiny. I couldn't believe it. But anyway, that's what you can get. And you'll get twice the length of the time on the bus here. So it saves us some money in the long run.
Okay.
What does the garage look like after you put oil on the underneath?
Well, there's a company up in Rutland that does them. And I think there's a place here now in Bennington. I think it's Dave's Auto that does that too. You're confined. I mean, you can't just you're not spraying the stuff all over your walls or everything. I mean, there's drains and there's some grates that stuff falls into, and you scrape it up. And you know, years ago, Jackie, the roads where they blacktop, they put oil and all that stuff on there. Now you can't do it because it leaches into the rivers or tanks and stuff. So anyway,
I do see that Dane made a comment on the right, linoleum. Does that sound? I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but
know that a couple of folks locally use linolene. I think it's like an oil, greasy kind of thing, but it's cheap.
Wool wax or there's wool wax, and there's a couple.
Wax oil. That's what it was. The name of the other company, undercoating, wax oil.
Yeah, and I think that's not petroleum.
And Dane, you had other question as well, I think, earlier.
Becky, do we have to pay for that bus up front? Is it going to come out of our funds right away or partial?
We pay on delivery.
Okay, so the money will be there. Okay.
So, you know, we had asked initially when we put the bid out for delivery before the end of the school year. Now they've come back because of the delay. We're meeting with you now in December. So that may not happen at the end of this school year due to, you know, just getting the parts for them to manufacture the new bus once the board approves it. So we may not have this bus before the end of the school year. We do not pay anything until delivery. So it may be next year when we make that payment.
You just encumber the money now and say it's spoken for. Okay.
Yes.
So we, I think we had a motion and a second approval, but we need to vote now from the full board. So all those in favor of approving the purchase of a new bus, please.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
I do ask, can we have just for the minutes, the purpose of the minutes, that the approval is to use the reserve funds for that purchase, just so it's in the minutes when our auditor looks?
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Should I restate that then?
She stated that already.
Okay.
When we were doing it.
All right.
And John, if I could just provide one more update, a little bit more specifically to Asher's question from earlier. The recent infrastructure bill that was passed, just so people know, there was $5 billion nationwide for clean school buses. I think it'll take a while for that to get implemented and everything, but just something to keep on our radar about those grants making it down to the state.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dan.
Okay. The only other thing I guess is, let's see.
Your report.
My report. And my report is that the evaluation is done, that we're very pleased with Michael's performance and so forth, but also just in general to say that the last school year and the opening of this school year, with the exception of the flooding, just went perfectly, and the staff and faculty and Michael worked really hard to pull all this off. And so I just want to let the community know that how much we appreciate their hard work in order to keep their kids in school and so forth. So basically that's it for me. Are there any other items or?
Yes, Leon, on the others, I was working, just wanted to let everybody know, trying to make sure get a policy committee set up. So we have some agenda items and so forth for that, but trying to schedule that in December. We looked at several dates, and with the new things happening with the water and doing some other things in the building, we decided to try to go for January. But we're going to be hitting the road the next meeting with a lot of assignment type changes for everybody that's on the committee, so we can move fast as possible to get through a lot more than what we've been getting through. Okay.
Yep. Thank you, Leon.
Yep.
I have one thing, John. is the petitions for school board members. I don't know if that's going to, you have to have signatures, or you're just going to submit your name. I don't know, because we need all that information when we get our budget stuff out there for the public.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So if anybody who's due to run again probably needs to put in a petition to with the committee, with the town office and so forth, so that you can get on the ballot. Okay.
I thought, did Sandy send a note to us, to everybody, to let them know when they're due? Is that what she normally do every year?
Yep, will do. I can tell you right now that Art, Leon, Fran, and Ken are up for re-election.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
But last year, John, you didn't have to do a petition because of COVID. I don't know whether that's still in effect.
Oh, okay.
Right. There are a couple of things that are still unknown. We don't know whether they will hold the floor meeting. Last year they held it via Zoom. I don't know if they'll hold the floor meeting that way or in person. And we also don't know whether or not you need the petition. So the best would be to contact the town clerk's office to find that out for this year. And I'm not sure if they've even made a final decision at this point, but that would be your best resource, is to contact the town clerk to verify what you need in order to get back on the ballot for this next election.
Okay. Thanks, Becky.
Okay.
Thank you.
Regarding Leon's question about the policy committee meeting, do we want to set that really quickly right now, or do we want to set it after this meeting?
No, I'm working on that separately. We won't be doing that in the general meeting here. It will be me setting it up with Sandy and the administrator, John Lamson, at a time when we can make sure we can have everything ready. And then we'll bring it out to all the committee members to say, this is where the best dates are, and then we'll move on from that.
Excellent. Thank you, Leon.
All right. Is there any other comments or questions?
Move adjournment.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you all very much for your attention.